We compete in one of the biggest sports in the world. There's always adversity. You're going to lose more races than you're going to win. But it's those days that you learn the most. Data is our lifeblood in Formula One. Everything we do is driven by the data that these cars create. We're not allowed to practice like in other sports. So we have a virtual world which we rely very heavy on, but also on the data that these cars generate and how we use that data. We're in a fortunate position where we can afford to be quite choosy of the partners that we want to work with. It's not just about having a sticker on the car. It's about the technology that it puts into the car as well. And so therefore, a partnership like the one we have with Oracle, the technology that opens up to us is so exciting. At the end of the day, it's about working with your team. All these different technologies are really helping us to push the boundaries. And we'll see the outcome of that in next year's car.
Traveling is kind of freedom you give you to yourself because you can look ahead into the world, which is full of curiosity and delight. We reduce the complexity of the systems or make trains and infrastructure more intelligent. Huge projects here in Germany creates a lot of data. Therefore, we choose Oracle Autonomous Database that centralizes each information from each area of the project so that we have a combined overview of the project. We have now 90% cost saving for on-premise database. The benefit also of the Oracle ATP service is the combination with the development framework Apex. With the Oracle Apex application, it's very easy. You only need a link and login credential, and then they have the full access to every information of the project. So I have more time for development instead of the administration of the database. The future of traveling, it will become more trains. The passenger want to have fast, safe, reliable and efficient ways into the city.
Intif is unique because we are developing software applications like artificial intelligence, from automotive, finance to high-tech and media to boost digital transformation. Oracle Autonomous Data Warehouse supporting our research and development is really beautiful because we can focus on our ideas of our innovation and not tackle with IT maintenance routine tasks. One of the greatest benefits is, in general, 10 times improved performance, sometimes up to 70 times improved performance comparing to our legacy system. Thanks to these features like auto-scaling, auto-tuning, auto-patching, there is better quality of this routine maintenance task. Quality increased by 4 times. We measured 3 times improvement of velocity of our development team. This was the really amazing achievement. There are some opportunities out there on the market that you have only 1 week or 2 or 3 to respond. The major benefits of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure is reducing costs. OCI facial recognition projects was 3 times less expensive with the same performance like in other public clouds. 3 times less expensive is a really huge difference. We can focus more of our resources on available design time rather than on infrastructure. Future looks fantastic.
We have incredible people who actually want to disrupt the entire transportation industry. They don't accept what has been for the past 30 years as good enough.
In order to be competitive, it goes back to really needing real-time information for our business leaders and our decision makers, and it goes fast.
I like using the term lightning in a bottle. As our business grew and millions of transactions turned into billions of transactions, we had to go up in scale.
We have decentralized systems. Things are quite manual, and that affords opportunity for mistakes. So it's a true transformation at Lyft with the products that we're implementing.
Taking a look at the Oracle technology stack, it's almost like a parfait. You start to say, where's my data stored? It's the Autonomous Data Warehouse, ADW. On top of that sits OAC, it's Oracle Analytic Cloud. What kind of insights we got are just absolutely amazing.
The world's going 1,000 miles an hour. For me to say, wait, I need another week, it just doesn't work anymore. And Oracle is reimagining the financial systems footprint so that we can be more nimble and flexible for the future of the business.
Danke sehr. Vielen Dank. Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for joining on this very hot day here in Cologne. And after the lunch break, I know it's hard to stay here, but be sure you have an interesting panel discussions going on here. My name is Andrea Sosinski from SPD Automotive. We are a research and consultant company solely focused on everything on transport, like autonomous driving, electrification, connected vehicle. So that's our DNA. And in our office here in Germany is located in Düsseldorf. Sorry for Cologne. So with me, I have Marco Lanzette from Oracle and Kobi Eisenberg from Autofleet. He's the founder and CEO, and Marco is the mobility director with me. Today we're discussing the topic of innovations in mobility. And why is the next generation of that really founded by software? I know we have a lot of hardware sitting here around, and this is where you have the right, but the heart of the new mobility is built on that. And it's for sure coming because you have just the disruption and evolution happen coming from the consumer electronics. And by that, obviously, the expectations of the people using new transport modality is changing. So they're changing in one side, obviously, that I have everything in the cloud, and I can have my connections there. I want to have seamless experience coming in from riding with one vehicle to another. The other topic is obviously that is the personalization effort. It should be made for me. I want to have it personalized for me and not just being one of many riding a bus or riding a scooter or anything like that. And the last one, obviously, is the change of ownership. So I want to rent and not own anymore because it's much more convenient, and maybe today I need a little bus because I go shopping somewhere at the furniture store, and the other I just need a little ride there. So with me on that, on the panel, we're discussing especially these topics and what Oracle and Autofleet has experienced already. And I would hand over the stage now to Marco, because I'm very interested. I'm a software engineer and started transportation connected traffic information in the mid-90s to collect them from bridge sensors. And I know Oracle only from my database time where I programmed and used them. So I'm interested to learn what Oracle is looking now.
Thank you, Andrea. So, good afternoon, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here with you. It has been a long time since I was on a stage, actually. So, after 2 years, it's quite energizing to be here. So, before we get into the core of our panel discussion, I really wanted to just give you a quick highlight on how much Oracle has been already working with mobility companies, not only as a database company, but with several technologies that are at the very heart of the mobility revolution. So I have to definitely start with Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Oracle has a great cloud infrastructure, Generation 2 cloud that is top-notch out there, which I would like to summarize having some, if not all, of the great assets that Oracle has had in decades of its history. One example is data. Oracle has an heritage of decades of handling high importance data for our customer in acquiring, managing, applying this data in order to get the best value out of that for our partners. And this is something that Oracle Cloud is very proud to bring to the next level. But also, we have a unique proposition in our tech stack from IaaS, PaaS, SaaS offering. And I could go over and over and touch upon points like the edge security. This is another great heritage that Oracle has been really working on since decade and has been pioneering with unbreakable solutions. But you know, I could go over and over with technology, but I don't want to bore you. I would really like to actually bring the discussion into something that that excites me much more of what we're trying to do with our new team, the Hypo team, the hypergrowth team, industry focused, focus on industry, hypergrowth industries, such as the mobility industries. We are a new team which is really focusing on creating new things, collaboration, partnership with many of the great companies that are out there. We have been already working with great mobility companies. You might have seen the video before we started the panel where we had some example with companies like Lyft or Intiv or Siemens, and even the latest partnership, technological partnership with Red Bull. But what makes special what we are really doing now at Oracle is that we really start with a blank page with each one of the new partners that we want to work with. We want to really focus on growth and innovation. We start together with a really clear goal to co-build, co-invest, co-sell together. And what makes it really special is that we put on the table all Oracle resources, but in a way that is always new. So it makes my job extremely interesting, but also very fun for our partners. And possibilities are really endless. We partner on technology aspect. We can work on business transformation, on strategic partnership. Everything is really possible with Oracle technology and with this new approach that we are having within our team. It's really trying to do things in a different way. We are trying to be, of course, innovating, to disrupt a little bit the traditional customer-to-vendor approach. And we have been doing this, I believe, quite successfully and with having fun. So you can see some examples. We really have a 360-degree kind of approach. From a commercial approach, we don't work on innovation, media, and so much more. But I don't want to take too much of the time of our panel discussion, so I will move back and actually start with some interesting topics that we will discuss today. Thank you.
Good. Before we go on a panel discussion, I have to let you know, you also all happy to have some questions on the table. You can use the Mentimeter app, which you just switch back. Yep, perfect. So there's the code there. Enter your questions on the panel there. We plan to have 5 minutes afterwards for you. The time is very short, but the people are around also afterwards. You can ask the question in English or German. I will simultaneously translate then, maybe. My Italian it's not so good. Good, Marco, let's start with you. Obviously, you talked about you bring the base, the technology, and we know technology is not the solution, but an enabler. So what do you think is the leading or the influencing technologies of bringing a new, I would say, transport system alive?
Well, let me start with something. First of all, I believe that technology has been key so far to really bring most of the mobility projects that we see around the world up to life. The core at the beginning, I think, was about really finding customer-centric solutions to grow within the mobility area. And technology has been supporting in many aspects in this sense in the past years. We see a little bit of a transition at the moment into also now focusing on profitability, sustainability, and maximizing efficiency within the mobility industry. And even here, technology can really play an important role. And I really believe that the magic is happening between two major areas when we discuss about technology. On one hand, we have this automotive and mobility disruption that is coming from technologies we have been seeing around, like in the past years, like connectivity, electrification, autonomous driving. But then we have the convergence also of more tech-related, let's say, innovation that are coming from the appification, the proliferation of always more customer-centric apps, but also the cloud, the Internet of Things. And I believe this kind of convergence is really making the magic happen. Of course, from a cloud point of view, we believe that this is also a key technology that is supporting the transition because of its intrinsic value of adaptation. So cloud is by definition adapting to always changing customer needs, but also trying to support with potentially scalability, time to market. So I believe that that's something that will be, it has been important and will be even more important in the future.
And how the cloud will support then, like sustainability, obviously is a big name and something like that. Do you have an example how the cloud can support that topic?
Definitely, definitely. We have been working with a lot of companies, for example, in the electrification world, and we managed to support them in their move to cloud, for example, reducing costs even significantly, to really enhance their P&L directly, or even support their time to market when developing and deploying application in a fast way, reducing times, sometimes even up to 90% in certain cases. Or we work with an EV scooter sharing company that had the need to really focus on their data in terms of understanding monitoring and recharging patterns of scooters, and we use our predictive analytics in order to support this transition. So there are a lot of examples, but I think in the sense of supporting sustainability, for example, in the electrification and EV transition.
Okay, thank you, Marco. Kobi, you come a long way down from Tel Aviv here, or up from Tel Aviv, however you want to say it, done something like that. So obviously you are focused really on making even more efficient support for all the fleet manufacturers and fleet supporters here on that. And obviously solution or software as a service is one of your key items. Can you just quickly introduce what your company is doing and what you have invented as co-founder?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, great to be here. As the name suggests, Autofleet is exclusively focused on asset-heavy fleets. So our customers range from rental car companies, car sharing operators, taxi companies, even micromobility. So anything from a scooter to a car to a truck. And we're really focused on supporting our customer fleets and getting the most out of their existing expensive assets that they're managing. So when we are applying our platform, our software platform, we're basically applying it both to launch new mobility services from scratch, but I think even more importantly and interestingly, taking a traditional fleet business and making it more efficient. And as Marco kind of alluded to, we definitely see a shift of where companies have been focusing a lot of growth and customer experience in the last maybe 5 to 10 years, and we see this transition now to actually becoming profitable, which is very hard to do with some of these mobility operations. As you know, some of the biggest new mobility services today are burning through a lot of cash, and making them profitable, making them sustainable, it really has to go very deep into how the operations are being done. How do you, for example, clean or service a vehicle with the least amount of downtime possible, right? You could do it in a very naive and manual approach, or for example, just saying after every few bookings, we're going to clean the vehicle, etc. Or you can have more sophisticated approaches that will be based on future demand, identifying what is the best timing, how to actually execute it through the best route, etc. And these can have very significant impact on the first the downtime of the fleet, reducing that downtime, and then translating that into additional revenues. For example, if you take a car sharing fleet as an example, and we today power some of the largest car sharing fleets in the world in terms of automating and optimizing their internal operations. If you take something like rebalancing, right? So in car sharing, especially in free floating, vehicles end up in pockets of low demand, and so you constantly need to rebalance them. You could do it in a very manual approach, which has been kind of the traditional approach where people are deciding how to move those vehicles based on their own experience, versus taking a more data-driven approach, predicting future demand that's based on weather patterns and seasonality and events, and then using that predicted demand to actually calculate where and to move the vehicles. And there's a cost of moving a vehicle, and you want to make sure that the return of investment, so if you're spending $1 or €1 moving a vehicle, you're getting a return in additional revenue on top of that dollar. In some cases, we're even seeing up to 70% return of investment on those rebalancing. So that's the kind of transition that we're seeing in terms of how to make fleets more sustainable, especially new mobility services that definitely didn't start with that kind of thought process in mind.
Okay, so it's, you just say the customer experience, obviously, would also grow, so with some KPIs, because it's easier and nicer to use. So what is you're talking a lot, what's the benefit for the companies who are offering that? But would the customer has also some experience and better life with it?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you're improving the efficiency of the fleet, you're indirectly also improving the customer experience. For example, if I continue in that example of a car sharing fleet, the number one most correlated factor to the conversion rate, so the chances that a customer, when they open the app, they're actually going to book a vehicle, the number one correlated metric is the distance to the closest vehicle. And so if you're more efficient in the operation, if you're reducing the downtime, vehicles are more available, they're located where they're needed, you're essentially reducing that distance, improving the customer experience, but then also increasing conversion rate, utilization, subsequently revenue. So it's really benefiting both the customer experience and the fleet efficiency.
Okay, so obviously you have great ideas about doing a service, and I think everybody, you started a company as well, you are eager and you want to do it by your own, so you do everything like that, but actually somehow you both are saying, let the hygiene factors, the things which just need to do something else and concentrate on something like what makes you unique as like a scooter operator or something like that. Is that the general message you would say, or the experience you made? Because I think you started also with little doing it by your own, and then you figured out, so wow, it's a lot to do in operations in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I think from a kind of software provider, especially in this kind of industry, where we're essentially powering or heavily involved in the core business of our customers. And so I think initially when we started the company, a lot of the initial focus was just proving that there is a significant increase in the efficiency of the fleet. But then as we scaled, and today we operate in over 15 countries across Asia, Europe, and North America, and as you kind of go through that scaling process, also the challenges start to shift from just making sure the algorithms perform and that you're increasing and benefiting the core business of the fleet, but that you could also do it at scale, and that you're taking data privacy at heart, and that the solution is reliable, because every downtime in our platform, if there's something goes wrong, somebody's not getting a ride somewhere else in the world, and we have to take that very seriously. And so in addition to just providing the product, which has to be very reliable, we also have to have support teams that work 24/7 and provide the response within even a few seconds. So we've seen that kind of transition even in our own business, from focusing on something that's very core to what we do to all the services and support around it.
Okay, but if I'm now, I would say, somebody who have a great idea and want to start up, and somehow I want to do everything by my own, especially if I'm an IT nerd and I want to do it and something like that. And should I really put something, I think, at my heart, at something like a for me, big company at Oracle, for example, and maybe have the fear I lose my independency. That's why I started my startup or something like that.
Well, it's an interesting question. Well, I would say that it's really about collaboration more than having the fear of losing control. I mean, it's more about focusing on your core needs and not having to really think about developing technologies that might be already there and that you can easily take advantage from a company like Oracle. So we have a great cloud. Why build yours? We can support you in that without touching your core business, or maybe if you need a digital twin, or you need some you have specific requirement on security, where Oracle has a great edge globally. So it's really about focusing on your core and trying to leverage on what we can do together to have the business grow organically. And we believe that most of our solution really can be really symbiotic with our partners. So that's the way we look at that.
You both touched the topic of security, obviously, and being a German, being in Europe, data security and everything, data protection is really everything like that. Being a bit provocative, I would say, Oracle being a US company, how do you deal with that in Europe?
Well, I think actually that's one of the sometimes one of the USPs that I tend to even, let's say so, to highlight about Oracle. Meaning we take security very seriously, and Oracle has decades of experience in providing a solution that have been extremely reliable from that sense. But also, if you look at how much hype there is around data now, Oracle is a neutral partner in this sense, because our core business is not about information or data. It's really about making sure that our partners and customers can make the best out of this data. So there is no risk in terms of competitive kind of opposition, or there is nothing related to the specific areas of data concerns, let's say.
Okay. We see a lot. We don't touch. We touch the connectivity. We touch the cloud or something like that. But what is all around that? It's about the electrification. You have it here all around. So, do you see any movement or shift for fleets, particular in electrification, Kobe? And what are the particular items electrified fleet need to take care of?
Yeah, electrification is becoming a very big deal, specifically for fleets, because fleets are intrinsically incentivized and motivated to adopt electric vehicles, even much more than the private sector. And this is because the characteristic of vehicles that are owned by fleets is high utilization, especially higher utilization than a privately owned vehicle, which is usually around 3 to 5%. If you take a taxi fleet, for example, we're talking sometimes higher than 50% utilization. And so the higher the utilization, the more the total cost of ownership of the vehicle makes more sense compared to a combustion engine vehicle. However, adopting EVs is a huge operational challenge. You have to consider how you're going to charge these vehicles. What kind of charging infrastructure do you need? What types of chargers? How long will it take to pay them back? What's going to be the impact on the customer experience? These are very important and also very complex questions to answer in real life. And so what we do specifically when we work with fleets is we use our simulation capabilities to answer these different kinds of business questions that otherwise take a long time and money to test in real life. Within a simulation environment, we can test and provide very actionable insights about the best way to adopt EVs in terms of, sometimes the question is it more from the fleet standpoint and identifying what types of vehicles we should buy or lease and how we're going to charge them, etc. And sometimes it's more from the infrastructure standpoint and thinking about what's going to be the utilization of the charging infrastructure and the underlying investment in that. And so we're, I think, in the last 12 to 18 months, seeing a significant uptake in the use of at least of our capabilities for fleet electrification. And just as an anecdote, today we announced a partnership with Scania Group, specifically around heavy trucks fleets, that are also transitioning to becoming electric.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think the trucks there, they use a lot of our CO2 space, so they can come electric much more. So I'm happy to receive some questions from the audience there. So anybody have questions to Kobe or to Marco, just let me know and shoot them to me. If we can't answer them now, we do that later on, obviously. But it's very interesting, especially what you say on the infrastructure side, because also we did a research on infrastructure and where are the charging stations are and where the people are and what are the cars. And you see sometimes a complete strange relation of too many chargers for too less cars, or vice versa. So I think it's really interesting where to do. And otherwise, I'm living in a 7,000 people village with not one public infrastructure charger. So I can tell you, when we test cars, I'm driving miles to find a charger. So there's still something to do in Germany, I would say, to improve that, and especially have the topics around that. So I think it's really interesting, and you both supporting companies, especially if they are small and want to get started with the business. I think Oracle do that absolutely, and we're looking forward to have some exchange with some startups there actually as well, to get their experience there as well. And it's impressive, I would say, that people, I know Scania now already since ages is one of the leader in the fleet system, and I think if they saying, well, some of the commodity I just take apart and I concentrate really what makes my service unique, is a statement. And people should think about that and not invent the wheel anymore, because I think the people really want to have services which are working. And I know that from the topic, you try it once and then you try it twice and it's not working, you don't use it, you try it a third time. So maybe just as a conclusion or something like that for the industry and also for Germany to bring, I would say, that alive, or in a European alive, one of your last statements from one of you, what would you recommend a startup company or even an established fleet company? Maybe Marco, you want to start?
Yeah, but, well, first of all, I agree with you that concentrating on the key of your business and on your route, that's fundamental. And parallel to that, I believe that partnering with a company like Oracle can really, we could really support into two key areas which I believe are fundamental today, which is basically trying to adapt with new solutions to market requirements and trying to do that in a speedy way, so with a timely time to market, let's say.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, I think one of the biggest challenges that we see when starting to kind of engage with fleets and starting to see where additional efficiency can come from is that you're starting from a point where maybe you have a mobility service that's been around for many years, and there's a lot of manual processes that are tied to it. And manual processes also mean that there's a lot of decision making that is being done in the minds of the operators and the people doing it. And just maybe to give a very tangible example, that a project that we just did in London with a cargo bike service, a very cool cargo bike service, very ecological, people riding around, delivering goods between different locations. And they had a set of dispatchers, a team of dispatchers that every day using walkie-talkies, they basically talk to the drivers and tell them where to go and what to do, and they kind of know what the priorities of the different businesses that they work with, their customers, of how to do that. And as we were trying to, their core priority was how do we automate these processes, because if we want to scale the business, we can't just rely on manual dispatchers to do it. So it was a priority to digitize that, automate it, and then to scale the business. But doing that is a very big challenge, because you basically have to translate all the manual decision making that is going on in people's minds and the considerations, and translating that into a machine model that can make these decisions in real life. So you go through these iterations, but once you're able to do it, not only that you are allowing, basically unlocking the ability to now scale the business, but you're also seeing sometimes even an increase to the efficiency that you had before. And that's kind of a repetitive use case in the process that we see when we work with more on the traditional business side in transitioning into a more efficient and new mobility services.
I can see still that there's some hurdle in digitalization of services when you come from a very manual transport system thing. And obviously Germany is several of the leaders, but not in digitalization, I would say. Best thing, I just did a boat ride somewhere where I can book a ticket online and have a QR code. And then I went to the counter, and this counter printed a ticket, so I gave it 1 meter away the physical ticket to get me on the boat. Where I said, well, yeah, the trees died for nothing, and these are the topics there around that. So I think the smooth helping of people who are used to work very analog, to make it digital and to make them recognize there's a benefit if I do it digital. I think that is still the key message to bring along. And you have, especially in public transport, I think the issue of different generations using it. The early ones or the new ones, they use it like natural. But I think the oldest maybe struggle, and then service and bringing the security, as you said, you experience it's safe, you don't give the data away to somebody. I think that is one of the key items you maybe give to the end consumers, and I assume your customers have that, I would say, big shoulders, as we say in Germany, to stand there and say it's all good there. So why then also like a partner like Oracle? It's a new concept of everybody want to sell something like that. But the partner topic, what you can bring on the table, just one item, I would say you can bring on the table, also maybe from your experience working for ages in the car industry, Marco, I know you there. So,
well, if you think about the traditional automotive industry and the mobility industry overall, I tend to use always the three same examples. So I always used to refer again on the data side, because that's very important in terms of really letting the partner, the automotive company or the mobility company, in control of their own data. So that's something that we, with Oracle, we take it very seriously. It's very important, and there is no kind of competition out there. Also, Oracle is not really directly involved in mobility in the core of automotive or mobility kind of business. So it's a perfect partner for this point of view. And lastly, we are really an open platform. So technologically speaking, which basically means at the end of the day, our partners, OEM or mobility companies, they really keep full ownership of their data. They keep full ownership of their business and manageability and control. No, that's something that I think in this kind of combination is quite unique for Oracle.
Cool. Thank you both for coming along here. Thank you for staying with us here. And happy to have another chat afterwards. And I hope you enjoy the nice surroundings here and can execute some of your own customer service. That's cool. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.